Hi, welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and today we're reviewing the series An Ember in the Ashes, 4 books by Sabaa Tahir. And I'm going to tell you right now, the series is considered young adult, but I think that classification is extremely debatable. Personally, I think the series is right on the line between young adult and more adult fantasy. It's got a foot in both camps. In the YA camp, the series has young protagonists, a hint of romance, and a theme of rebelling against authority, which is the quintessential YA theme, and it's also written in first-person mode, which is the quintessential YA point of view. In the adult camp, it's quite dark and violent. The story is about fighting back against oppression, so there's a brutal depiction of slavery, torture, bodily mutilations, public executions, war crimes, and atrocities. Yikes. Plus, the story itself, the world building, and the themes are all a fair bit more complex than you normally get in the YA genre. It's not extremely advanced fantasy, but definitely deeper than usual. So I think the series will be perfect for people who like a little bit of both.
Both is good.
Those who like their YA with a bit more adult complexity, or those who like adult stories with a splash of YA. There's a reason this series has been highly popular, because it appeals to multiple age groups. So, let me pitch this series to you, spoiler free, and I'll include any strengths and weaknesses you might find, and ultimately try to help you decide if this is something you might like to read. Let's begin. Long ago, the brutal martial clans conquered the Scholar Empire. Now they rule with total authority, and everyone must conform to their highly militarized society. The scholars are trapped under the heavy yoke of oppression, where they have no rights and no justice within the new empire. Leia is a scholar girl living on the outskirts of the empire in awful poverty. All she wants to do is keep her head down and avoid imperial notice. Yet tragedy strikes when masked men invade her home on suspicion alone, and her brother Darren is abducted without charge. Leia knows there will be no justice, no legal way to save her brother, so she devises a bold plan to infiltrate the household of the local ruler, the feared commandant, a woman known for her sadistic violence and cruelty. Leia must turn into a spy and search this household for information if she has any chance to find and save her brother. There's quite a few interesting things going on with this world. So first, the martial empire is very much inspired by ancient Roman culture and society, and the scholars are much more inspired by Arabic culture. So this Roman and Middle Eastern combination, it's an unusual one for the fantasy genre, but it's also a lot like the ancient Roman occupation of the Middle East as described in the Bible. So some of you will be more familiar with this combination of cultures. The author herself is a child of immigrants from Pakistan, so I believe she was able to draw inspiration from her own heritage. The scholars were, as the name suggests, a culture of learning and knowledge. Now they are a hated minority. Many of them are slaves, and even those who have kept their freedom are still kept out of high-paying jobs and denied legal rights.
Seriously? That is not cool.
All of them are desperately poor and struggling to survive. They still share their old stories and cultures in secret, but they don't have much hope of true freedom. That's why many of them have joined the Resistance, a secret organization that tries to sabotage the Empire through any means necessary. Of course, the Resistance also just gives the Empire the excuse they're looking for to increase their acts of violence and suppression.
That's rude.
Meanwhile, the Martial Empire uses a lot of Roman names and terminology, such as the Commandant, the Legion, Augurs, that sort of thing. Their society strictly teaches total obedience and order. To question means instant punishment. Their most feared servants are the Masks, trained soldiers who wear masks whenever they terrorize people. These guys have total authority to do whatever they deem necessary in the name of national security. Even their own citizens fear and hate them. Now, since this is a fantasy series, you may be wondering, where's all the cool magic? Well, that's the interesting thing about this one. There isn't magic. At least, not exactly. All we have are hints that magic once existed, but now the knowledge is lost. The scholars have old stories about gods and jinn, but that might just be fairy tales. And the Martial Empire have the Augurs, a group of seers who are supposedly immortal, but that just could be propaganda. And the masked soldiers seem to have almost inhuman abilities, but that could just be an exaggeration of their reputation. So nothing is known for sure. There's plausible deniability for all of it.
I don't don't even know what's real anymore.
This is actually one of my favorite parts of the series. We have YA stories like Throne of Glass, where the heroine fights back against authority, but then she's also basically a demigod, so there's no other way to say it.
Super easy, barely an inconvenience.
But Leia, on the other hand, doesn't have superpowers or high-tech assassin skills, and there's no magic that she can just go find, and it genuinely makes things much tenser, especially when the people in power seem to know a lot more about this stuff than she does. So we have 3 main characters in this series, and as I said at the start, the story is written in first-person mode, so we spend a lot of time in their heads, looking through their eyes, and they each have a different way of looking at the world. That said, I am of 2 minds about the characters. I like them, and yet don't like them. I spent a lot of time talking about this series with other people who've read it, trying to refine my thoughts on the characters and pinpoint exactly what felt off. But my opinion is that the character writing is simply okay. There's a lot of good things that it does. It gives our 3 characters goals to strive for. They have internal personal struggles that make them relatable, and they have strong emotions that were easy to connect with. I genuinely cared about these characters. But on the flip side, they're a little generic. They behave how most people would behave if they were in that situation, rather than behaving in a more personality-specific way. And the characters are constantly in mortal danger. They're in survival mode. They don't have time to slow down and self-reflect and grow as people. I think the plot moves so quickly that we don't have time for quieter character moments, which can leave the characters feeling a bit shallow. Still, let's look at our main characters. So we have Leia. She's the lowest of the low in this society, and she's trying to infiltrate the commandant's household. She's very well read for a girl in poverty. She's smart and she's brave, but she's also terrified and very inexperienced. She doesn't really have the stomach for such dangerous work. I also very much liked that Leia is a smart protagonist rather than a fighter.
Clever girl.
Then we have Elias. So he's the commandant's son, and he's in training at Blackcliff Academy to become a mask. His story is all about his indoctrination, the constant reinforcement of his beliefs that he must obey and never question. Yet Elias spent time growing up with the nomad tribes far outside the Empire, so he has experienced another way of life. It's just enough to make him start questioning in secret. And finally, there's Helene, the only woman at Blackcliff Academy. In book 1, she is just a side character, very much Elias's close friend, but from book 2 onwards, she becomes a major protagonist. And so her plot is all about obedience as well, but she must enforce the Emperor's will because there are severe threats against her family. So I really enjoyed the nuance of her story, showing how people can commit violence because of fear or coercion. Though I do also have to talk about the Commandant herself, because she's one hell of a villain. Normally YA books will have cartoonish villains who usually sit around on a throne waiting for the hero to come to them when they're ready. But the Commandant is so freaking sadistic and cruel. Many of the slaves in her household have suffered gruesome bodily mutilation for their minor infractions in the past. Some have missing eyes, others have scars all over their faces. The Commandant is a huge, intimidating threat in the series, and while it's hard to see her true personality behind the military facade, we do see the true face, and it's complex and layered. She was a real highlight of the series for me. I want to give you an idea of where this series goes, without getting into spoilers, because there's 4 books, that's a decently long read. What's involved? So first I'll confirm, they are all a pretty equal quality. There's no major improvements or drop-offs over the course of the 4 books. It's consistent, so it means if you like book 1, you will like book 4, or dislike. Now, one major plotline across the series is the whole concept of obedience versus rebellion. Everyone is told they must obey. And yet, obedience doesn't exactly make you any safer, does it? That's authoritarianism for you. But on the other hand, even if you do rebel, you can't simply overthrow an evil empire alone. Who can you trust? Now, I will admit, there is a certain predictability to the whole rebellion storyline, but at the same time, it's exactly what you want it to be. I mean, rebellion is a lot like a Chekhov's gun. You'd be mad if it didn't go off. Another major storyline is the quests for magic. So there are several magical mysteries at the start of book 1, and much of the later books are about finding out the truth. The whole supernatural world, the gods, the magics, was really intriguing. In fact, this is the very thing that elevated this series for me above the usual YA worlds. I swear most YA magic systems are literally just a copy-paste of like X-Men powers, but this was genuinely much more unique. I can't say much more about it, but there were some great fantasy concepts explored here. Each book added a little bit more to this world.
Sounds like such a magical place.
There's also several romance plotlines. I know. This particular plotline did feel the most YA. I think the romance overall was okay. As a reader, I cared about the romance and was invested in it, but at the same time there was a certain familiarity to the trope. The characters have romantic feelings because they're both in the same book and it's kind of expected and they're both attractive. I'm not really sure they actually had that much in common or if they genuinely had a chance to grow a real bond. It's a little bit like they're both attractive so they're in love now.
So we're perfect together.
But I'll also admit I'm probably in the minority here. From reading other reviews about the series, it looks like most other readers were totally on board with this romance, so you might be too. One final major plotline is all about revealing the mysteries of the past. So first we have the mystery of exactly how the martial clans took over the Scholar Empire. By all accounts, the scholars were far more powerful. Something's definitely wrong with this picture here.
Something is wrong!
Second, we have the mysterious past of Leia's own family and her missing parents. I mean, she's lost family before, that's why she can't bear to lose her brother now. Personally, I really enjoyed both of these trips into the past and thought they blended well with all the present-day plots. There are multiple darker themes in this series. For one, it's violent from pretty much page 1, okay? So we see police killing civilians with impunity. We see public executions or whippings for even the slightest disobedience. And of course, we see all those slaves with the extreme disfigurements. But it's not just about physical violence, it's systemic. This is a story about occupation. The soldiers of the academy aren't noble warriors fighting for freedom and justice. No, they're just thugs.
He is a loathsome, offensive brute.
The scholars are not considered full citizens under this occupation. They don't have legal rights, they can't be educated or take up arms or make very much money. They can be arrested without charge and held in prison indefinitely. This is a much more accurate and mature depiction of what occupation looks like. The books also show just how violent and cruel this militarized state can be against its own citizens. Anyone who expresses a dissenting opinion, anyone who is too slow in following orders. The ruling elites are so powerful they basically have control over every area of society. That's why it takes so much work to fight back.
Fighting fascism is a full-time job!
I honestly loved the way that these themes were given time to breathe. Often in YA, deeper themes are only alluded to, as if the writer is trying to make the story appear deeper than it actually is. But here, we get difficult themes, but they're still explored in a way that's easy to comprehend. It's entirely appropriate, and I think that's the reason why it still appeals to adults, because it's not as shallow as other books in this genre often are. This is a very female-led series. Of the 4 major players in the drama, 3 of them are women. And that's entirely the point of the story. So the author, Sabaa Tahir, was inspired to write this story after reading an article about events in Kashmir. So here's a bit of historical context. Kashmir sits along the borders of India and Pakistan, and it's considered disputed territory. Both countries have claimed this land since 1947. You know, since the British occupation ended and they left the whole region in shambles. Well, both of these countries have fought 3 separate wars over the region of Kashmir this past 80 years, with the local population largely paying the price. The situation is ongoing. Well, in 2007, the author read an article in the Washington Post about Kashmiri men being kidnapped by occupying military, accused of helping the other side. These men were simply never seen again by their families. That's when Sabaa Tahir asked herself, what would the women do in this situation? And that's where the story came from. Leia trying to save her brother after he's been kidnapped. So that's why it's a female-led series, because it's all about asking the question, what would you do if all the men were gone? I also appreciate that in a story like this, we still have a major male character, Elias, who is competent and badass. So it's female-led, but that's not because all the men are just losers. The series also has a huge focus on prejudice and racial oppression. So we have the occupiers who are very much convinced of their own racial superiority. And there's the oppressed minority who is dehumanized and blamed for everything. So it's very well handled and draws a lot from history to be realistic. There's several disabled characters, usually disabled from violent injury. There's also characters dealing with a lot of mental health challenges, loss, grief, trauma, that sort of thing. That said, there is virtually no LGBT characters across the 4 books. No character is ever confirmed as being queer at any point. As for the content warning, you might have guessed by now, but this is a pretty violent world. Yet, the worst of it always seems to happen off screen. So we see slaves with disfigurements, but we don't see that violence being inflicted. We know there's a lot of sexual assault in this world committed by the occupying force, and the scholars constantly fear that fate happening to them, but we don't see it. So I think it's a series that threads the needle very well of being violent without also shoving that violence in your face. There's a lot of mature themes, so there's discussions around grief, trauma, abuse, mental health, and there is no sexual content in the series. Despite the romance plotlines, it's not a spicy series. Is the ending worth it? Yeah, it's alright. Okay, look. All 4 books are consistently good, and the last book finishes just fine. But I personally thought that the ending didn't have enough big surprises or big reveals or shakeups. It was what I would call a safe ending. This is a downside of just being someone who reads a lot, who then goes and reads YA. A young reader would go see this ending and be like, whoa, that was amazing. And someone like me is like, wow, that was nothing I haven't seen many times before. So I hope that answers your question. And how much should you try? Look, book 1 is very good. It's a strong opening, it introduces all the major players, the plot lines, the themes, and it's a great reflection of the rest of the series. So you can try it, and right away you'll know if the rest of the series is right for you. So good luck and happy reading. Thanks for watching. Now, we're going to take a quick break next week to continue our read-through of the Discworld series before we come back and tackle a big series, Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I hope you'll join me for that. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more very thorough book reviews just like this one. If you want to support the channel, you can buy my books, The Immortal Investigations, an urban fantasy series with monsters, magic, and mystery, and they're now available as audiobooks. The first 2 are up now, with the 3rd one coming in just a few weeks. I also have an online shop and a Patreon. Links to all of those in the description below. I'll see you next time, and I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!